From itty-bitty VFX tweaks to literally turning back time with costumes. This is everything that happens behind the scenes of Outlander and what it really looks like. Starting with step 1, picking out the perfect real-life locations. And which other region would have fit better than Scotland? You've got the Scottish Highlands with its lush green valleys, whimsical cloudy skies, sky-high cliffs, and ancient architecture. In other words, all the ingredients for a romantic fantasy tale. Wouldn't it be nice to have a novel in that setting? Oh wait, Diana Gabaldon did just that, with her watchful eye ensuring they do justice to her mental images. The team picked out Outlander's iconic settings. For starters, let's talk about Claire's time jump spot, Craignadoon, the point that kick-started a legendary story. It was shot for shot the glorious scenery of Cynloch Ronach, all except for the stone circle. That was just styrofoam. But the other major stone buildings in Outlander? Oh, they were very much solid, such as Blackness Castle, which was used as Fort William. Midhope Castle became Jaime's family home, Lallybroch, and Linlithgow Palace served as the sinister Wentworth Prison. Note all 3 of these are castles, because only they could bring that perfect century-old feels. Well, not completely perfect. Our Miss Diana had brought one trump card, bringing a little time travel twist into the mix. So even if they got near-perfect locations, they were standing in the 21st century now. Some things had to be changed, or aged more like it. And that's where the magic wand came in. Make way for the CGI. Special effects did everything, big or small. For instance, it removed any modern things from the frame. They certainly made sure not to repeat the Game of Thrones mistake. No Starbucks coffee cup or modern-looking furniture was left in sight. Even present-day buildings were removed from some shots. That gave us a natural look at beaches and forests. Because, come on, it's been a couple of centuries later. Humans have disturbed them by now, and the CGI wasn't just good for hiding stuff. It also helped expand the landscapes, such as the castles. Their courtyards weren't as big, so they added a green screen and voila! Now, you've got expanded courtyards. The same happened to the surrounding of other locations. They added fictional streets around them, similar cobblestone looks, and little inns and whatever businesses thrived back then. When it all comes together, it feels like the characters are actually transported back in time. What's more, even some animals or two were brought to life. You didn't think they got an actual bison, did you? Or the locust storm? Nope, all swish and flick of the VFX. The effects really allowed us to experience the different time periods in Outlander. Now that it had set the stage, gotta fill it up with furnishings too. Yep, time for set designers to do their magic. And it was quite a lengthy process. First, the team did some research. Next, they created some sketches. And finally, they built sturdy models. Production designer John Gary Steele says they actually built a number of props, such as large tables, armories, hutches, and even cabinets. Then comes the massive sets. Now, if you're visiting Scotland and decide to see the Outlander locations, you might not recognize the rooms at all. Why? Because mostly the room interiors were built in a studio. More often than not, the ancient buildings served as just the exterior shots. But no attention to detail was spared. They actually mapped the actual castle rooms and then created their own versions. Also, loads of Dutch 17th century paintings came in handy. They inspired the heavy velvet drapes we saw at Lallybroch. Yep, the classic looks came straight out of a painting. Even the colors were thoughtfully chosen. In Scottish settings, you'll note more neutral tones influenced by nature. There'll be plenty of heather tones, greens, browns, and ochre. As for modern-day scenes, which was Outlander's 60s era, mid-20th century magazines saved the day. Now that sets were built, all that was left to do was add in the people. Appropriately dressed, obviously. Time to hit the costumes department. They worked day and night to create stunning dresses. And that's why the costumes are incredibly accurate. even down to the region, dress cuts and shapes, and the character's station. Don't get me started on the colors. The way they added the antique looks to them was genius. Every dress is painstakingly hand-dyed. Then cheese graters come to play. Yep, they aren't just for cheese. Apparently, they can be a really useful tool to give a worn-out look to the costumes. And the costume designer didn't shy away from actual blowtorches, too. They even baked the clothes so they looked old. Now that dedication is just mind-blowing. Speaking of dedication, the men dressed like true Scotsmen. I don't mean just wearing kilts, but going commando while wearing them. What's that saying? When in Rome, do as the Romans do? Well, when in the Scottish Highlands, you've got to do as the Scots do. And here's a secret for you. According to Sam Heughan, it's actually freeing. But it's not that easy for women. They have to hold their breaths in corsets. Despite that, Katrina Balfe likes them. According to the Irish Star, once they wear these old vintage costumes, they're immediately transferred to their centuries-old avatars. So the costumes help them get into character. But the dresses aren't the only thing she has to wear. The show uses over 300 wigs. As much as I love going on historical tours, I think it quickly became a menace for the team. So many fashion periods, and constantly changing hairstyles. One moment, you're in the wild, so they gotta make your hair look messy. Then they take you into Regency-era Paris, so the designers need to create elaborate, bejeweled updos. Oh, that's gotta be so tiring. But still, Outlander does it. Every actor has to wear a wig at some point in the show. And every Outlander fan knows Sam's plight. He's a natural blonde. But Jamie is supposed to have hair with flames of gold and copper. To put it less artistically, a redhead. And that's what fans and even the author craved for Heughan. So he either has to dye his hair constantly or wear a wig. But only he could be the best Jamie Outlander could have. So color changes are a necessary evil. He also goes through other hair changes, like having the infamous bangs and that sexy ponytail on mature Jamie. Now, sets? Check. Costumes? Check. Hair? Check. But none of them troubled the cast more than actually speaking. You guessed it. I'm talking about actually adopting the Scottish accent. What would Outlander be without it? And no one is spared. Even the actual Scottish actors. Turns out their natural dialect is different from what the show needs. Like, even though Sam is Scottish, his accent is more Edinburgh. So he makes it heavier for the show and adds a little Highland lilt to it. Roger Mackenzie, or Richard Rangan, is also born in Scotland. But again, wrong dialect. Roger speaks with an Inverness accent, which Richard finds super difficult to adopt. As for Claire herself, she's English, whereas the star who plays her, Katrina, has Irish roots. Still, she can flawlessly adopt an English accent. But going from English to Scottish is super difficult, especially for Caitlin O'Ryan. In a Season 6 BTS video, she says she's still working on her Scottish. Every season. She's been with the show since Season 4, and it's still troubling her. Well, nobody said Scottish was easy. One way or another, almost every actor in the show has to work with a dialect coach. That's how they shred their 21st century versions, adopt the authentic accents, and become Outlanders. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was everything that happens behind the scenes of Outlander and what it really looks like.